I love a mastering EQ, and at the Crates Motel today, we got a big surprise. Hi, welcome to the Crates Motel. My name's Conan. In today's video, we're going to have a look at the brand new plugin from Plugin Alliance, which is an emulation of the Knif Soma Mastering EQ. Now, as you know, my videos don't tend to have a lot of science. They're really just about what it actually sounds like. So let's get stuck in. So here we are in Studio One. Now, as in the real world, the Soma is a mastering grade EQ. We're going to try it out on a master first. I've got no other processing whatsoever on this master, so we're just going to hear what the EQ can do. Now, I'm not going to go into massive detail on all of the functions of the EQ because we're interested in how it actually sounds. But as you can see, it's a 4-band EQ. You have multiple frequencies that you can choose from on each band. You can choose the Q from very, very broad to a shelf to relatively narrow. You can switch each band on or off. We have a high pass, low pass, trim. We can mute the left or the right channel. And when it's in mid-side, you can mute the mid or the side, which is really, really useful. Down here, we have the TMT, which is becoming quite a regular thing in the Plugin Alliance plugins, which just emulates a bit of analog harmonics. And you can randomize the channel just to slightly change how it sounds. Really, really handy if you're going to be using the EQ on multiple channels in a mix. We have the mono maker, the stereo width. Stereo width really, really useful, and the mono maker useful when we're using mid-side. Stereo width I love using on the Plugin Alliance plugins when I'm mastering, just a little tickle, not too much. Then we have the input and output gain, and we have this headroom control here, which is really, really nice, but I'll get into that later. So let's kick off in the left and right mode on this master, and let's just kind of hear how it sounds. Have like a old school house type records, quite a busy mix, quite a lot of bottom end going on. So I'm going to keep the channels linked when I'm in left and right mode, which you can adjust over here. Also, if you have the auto listen switched on, when you click on the frequency and keep the mouse button down, it will isolate that frequency so you can hear what the frequency you're controlling. I'm going to do a shelf at about 56. You can be quite aggressive with it, but it's really nice and warm, very round, and just sort of feels like it's wrapping me in cotton wool. It's lovely. Let's just give it a little bit of width. I normally find on the PA plugins around about 110 to 115. Let's just push it. Yeah, I think this seems a lot more subtle than the other stereo widths. I find on the Amic EQ, the stereo width it's really in your face. I would never normally push it that far. It sounds... Obviously it's source dependent. On this track it sounds pretty good around about 120. So as you can hear, it's very, very subtle. I mean, even with some of these in mastering, that would be quite aggressive, really. Unless you're wearing headphones, you're probably not going to really notice some of the subtle EQ moves that I've made here. But bypassing it, this is what I really, really like about this EQ actually. When you when you have it on and you start making some moves, you kind of start feeling, well, it doesn't really seem to be doing much. It's very musical, and you don't really notice it until you turn it off, and then suddenly you kind of go, oh, okay, now I can see what that's doing. It really does open things up, and I don't know, it just kind of adds a little sheen, kind of makes it sound a bit posh and round and creamy. It's really nice. Let's push the bottom end a bit more. You see how subtle the filters are. If I push that up to 7, you really start hearing it, but between 2 and 3, up to sort of 3, you don't really hear anything until you switch it off. Then you notice the difference. You see how it narrows? I mean, even if I take this down, just the EQ just opens it up the same way an analog EQ would. So narrow, opens. So let's reset it and try some mastering EQ moves in mid-side. Let's go into mid-side. If we unlink the channels, just make sure it's in mid-side. There we go. What's nice is you can mute the mid or side channel. It's really handy having that on board. Really open up the high end. I mean, I would never push it that far, but listen to what happens when I just gradually push it up. You'll hear the high ends just open up, but still very, very musically and not harsh in any way. Even though, you know, I mean, these kind of frequencies here can be quite harsh. Let's take it down to, let's take it down to 5, 6. I'm going to take it in and out of bypass now. So again, using the mid-side, you can really open things up, but again, it's very subtle and very, very musical world. shelves on it are really nice. Let's have a listen to what the 27K sounds like. I'm really liking the 4.7, 5.6 kind of area on this EQ. It's kind of one of my favorite frequencies, and it's the frequency that I always, when I get a new EQ, I always try at that frequency to see how it sounds. There are some EQs that don't sound great at that frequency, and they sound great in the low end, but just for me, it's quite an important frequency in mastering. You can really give a track a real nice clarity and a nice sheen to it, a nice sparkly edge to it by just subtly boosting that kind of area. So it's useful with mastering EQs to have a good sound in that kind of area, not harsh but musical, sounding nice. Now what I want to do now is just try it out on some individual instruments, because it's not the kind of EQ that you would normally think of trying out on individual instruments, especially a mono version of it, which, as you can see, is available. The reason why I want to show you this is because of this headroom just here. You can really create some really, really nice character, I've just discovered, sort of by accident. It distorts really nicely, which, on drums can sound really, really good. So I've got it on a mono live kick, and it's not got any more processing. There's no compression on it or anything like that. I'm just going to run through some kind of standard kick drum EQ moves, but the headroom is what I'm going to really use. So let's just take the bottom end off. Really musical, girthy, solid, round bottom end. Lovely. Let's just scoop a little out here. You can hear the boxiness on the kick there, so just take a little bit out. So even pushing it up there sounds musical. So let's play with this headroom. This just adds some grit and a little bit of distortion, and it's really nice. I mean, we can really push it. So you often find in the box, getting distortion sounding nice, like a pleasant distortion, it's not always easy to get. Certainly in recent times, it's definitely got better. Plugins have definitely got better at doing it. This is really, really nice. So, play around with this headroom here. On drum buses, that sounds really, really nice. Snare drums, kick drums. It's okay to drive things into the red. If it sounds good, it is good. The kick just disappears into the mix when you take the EQ out. I like being able to aggressively push this kind of frequency on a kick drum. Yeah, really, really nice. So let's have a listen to it on a snare drum, live snare drum. Now what I'm going to do is, here I'm going to illustrate what you can do with the headroom if you really drive the input. So I'm going to bring the snare drum right up. Now watch what happens when I start introducing this. You see, it almost gives it like it sounds like it's being compressed slightly. So it just makes it sound really beefy. Even if I take the EQ out. So even with the EQ out completely, you can still use this headroom and give a really nice musical kind of distortion and harmonics to some drums, to guitar. You know, I haven't really tried it on any other solo instruments, but I have been trying it out on drums a lot today, and it just sounds really, really nice. So as I mentioned drum buses, I wanted to show you what this sounds like on a drum bus. This is what I was playing around with earlier on. So I'm not going to use the EQ to start with. I'm just going to use the input and output and headroom just to show you how you can create a real nice bit of grit and some nice harmonics on the drum bus. Just turn the EQ off. You hear how it's just introducing a bit of harmonic distortion and just weight. And I haven't even got the EQ turned on. So again, you can hear just opens up the bottom end and gives a nice sparkle on top. And then this lovely kind of gritty character that's been added by really pushing into the, what I guess is the preamps that they're emulating here. So it's definitely not just an EQ for mastering. It can be used on individual instruments, buses. I'm really, really looking forward to trying this out on different instruments. And you know, just for the hell of it, I might even do an entire track just using this EQ. It might be quite fun. So there you have it, the new plug-in alliance Knif Soma EQ. Now, full disclosure, Plugin Alliance did actually send me this EQ before it's released to test, but I did say to them that this was going to be an unbiased review on how it actually sounds. So I hope that gave you some insight into how it sounds on masters and individual tracks. I really like the sound of it. It's a very musical EQ. I would definitely be using it in mastering, but I'll also be using it in mixing as well on individual tracks, on the drum bus. I love it on the drum bus. Really looking forward to trying it out on vocals and bass and synths. It's a winner for me. I absolutely love it. Definitely get your hands on it. Definitely demo it. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more mixing and mastering tutorials and reviews. This is the Crates Motel. My name's Conan. Until next time.